I have a list for you, a list of badass female characters who don't take no shit, who will slap you, who will stab you, who will shoot you, who will knock you in your jaw, okay? If you play with them. This is in no particular order. So we're going to start off with DNF by Navi Robins and the character Brit. Brit was hilarious because she was a witch and her superpower, okay, get this, is that she is a book critic, of a book reviewer, if you will. And when people play in her face, she puts them into their books, right? So if you write a book that is terrible, like really terrible, she'll put you in that book and she'll leave you in there until you learn your lesson to not play with her. And so I think one of the books was like, my baby daddy was messing with the thug down the street who happens to be an alien. It was some dumb shit. And she put the author of that book into his own book because he was trying to break bad. All right. And it was funny because her power really was sort of petty, but then also was needed because she was always about elevating what Black literature should be. And if you didn't come correct because you were just trying to put some shit out that didn't make sense, she was going to make you feel that, especially if you came at her sideways. Next, we have the book Princess by Shon. And the person, her name is Princess Monroe, and she would cut your stuff off because she did it in the book. She actually did it. You did not want to mess with her. She wasn't the 1, the 2, nor the 3. If you messed with her, you were going to end up in the sky, right? You were going to end up dead. You were going to wake up dead. And the book started with her having someone's phallic member in a box, right? Because he did her friend dirty. And because he did her friend dirty, she went to hell. When they go low, she went lower and she took him there. So Princess was such a character in this book that she made grown men kind of look over their shoulder like, oh shit, here she comes. You better watch out. So I loved her for that reason because she was a little touched. She knew it. But you didn't mess with the people that she loved. That was a no-no. The Sweet Fall by Melody Lynch. This character was a fallen angel. So right there, okay, you already know it's some shit that's about to go left. Not only was she a fallen angel, but everyone in her chosen family were also fallen angels, and they were all male fallen angels. So right off the bat, you know, she was the toughest of the toughest. Not only was she the toughest of the toughest, she had all the bad women's, okay? And in this book, she wasn't afraid to go left hook, right hook, uppercut when people pissed her off. Because there's a scene in this book where a man comes to try to take his woman back. And even though his woman was okay with being with Ava because Ava was putting it down, you know, she her backpack or whatever, he thought he could call her a bitch. And he thought that he could hit her. And yeah, he got his ass whooped. Because again, she gave him that 1-2 left punch and was like, try this shit with somebody else because I am not the 1, the 2, nor the 3. And he got his ass handed to him. She probably would have went even further if she wasn't stopped by her chosen family. But she was never one to walk away from a fight. You weren't going to do that with her. And in this story, she was always fighting. Okay? But Ava, again, was always looking for love, and she found it, and she was going to fight for it. But don't catch her on a bad day. Okay, I know I said that these books were in no particular order, but these last 2 that I'm going to tell you are actually some of my favorite main characters, right? The Blood Trials by N.E. Davenport and Akenna. Akenna was the one, right? She was the one because not only did she have leadership qualities, she also had a little bit of magic in her. She was never one to give up. She did frustrate me sometimes because I felt like, damn, like you really could have thought this through. But then I had to remember that she's a youngin', but she was kicking ass and taking names, right? She was the one who knew that she would have to end up fighting the worst of the worst villains in her own world. And she did it. And she did it knowing that this might be the end of her, but she did it anyway because she knew that she could not go back on her people. right? She knew she had the weight of an entire nation on her back. And so she did everything that she could do to make sure that they were safe. And because of that, she was that girl. Okay. You might have caught her slipping, but she was never, ever going to let you forget who she was. And her knife game was on point, right? She was a woman, and I say woman very loosely because I think she was like 19 in this story. But she was the one who not only knew that she had to fight evil with everything in her being, and she knew that she had to prevail. And not only was she betrayed by someone who she loved deeply, who she saw as a sister, she also was dealing with the death of someone who she looked to as a parent. And then she had another person who also betrayed her, who she also looked to as like um, almost like a parent as well. And so she was dealing with all of those things while being a very young person, but still managed to come out on top. All right. I'm not going to tell you what happened. This is a two story, there are two actual series. This is two books in this series, but it was a lot happening. Okay. It was a lot. And she managed to prevail while kicking ass. Let's talk about my final book, The Huntsman by Naomi Simone. The main character in the story is Ish. I hope I said that right. I'm not sure. But this book was interesting because it was a take on Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So you have Ish, who has seven girls who, for her, are her sisters who are tight. They are a unit, right? One does something, everyone else. It's all for one and one for all. And she has to avenge the death of her mother by the hands of her mother's own sister. This story, she she was the one, right? She was the one who knew everybody who was in the game. She wasn't afraid to inflict torture. She wasn't afraid to whoop ass. She wasn't afraid that she was not going to avenge her mother. She knew what she had to do. And within that, she still found love because, of course, it's a romance book, but it did not take away from her knowing that one, she was the baddest in the land, right? Not only was she the baddest in the land, she knew what she had to do to make sure that her mother's legacy did not or was not in vain because of someone who was greedy enough to try to take it and also try to take her life as well. So she had some stalker tendencies. I'm not going to lie. She was a little bit stalkerish with the person who was called the Huntsman, but she knew what she wanted. She went after it, but she also made sure that she avenged her mother. Are all women who knew what they wanted, who were not afraid to take it, who were violent in some way, who were also petty, but you knew exactly who they were. But you knew exactly who they were when they stepped into a space because their presence was commanding. And not only was their presence commanding, they also knew how to protect themselves and to protect those who were around them. So for me, these were the baddest of the baddest that I've read thus far for 2025 and 2026. I hope that with me giving you information about these characters that you realize that they all had something in common. They were not to be trifled with, right? They all knew that they were badasses and they did not let anyone shrink them or dim their light because they, one, knew what they were up against. Two, they did not let anyone tell them that what they could and could not do. But three, they always had a squad of people around them who believed in what they were doing, who fed into them, who told them when they were right, when they were wrong, but also wanted to see them succeed. So I hope that even though you saw them as badasses like I did, you also saw that they did have help even when they didn't ask for it. As always, you are your longest and most expensive relationship. Any money or time that you spend on being your favorite version of yourself is never money or time wasted. And I hope that if you got anything from these characters that I just talked about, that you got a level of confidence, right? That you got a level of I am the one, not the two nor the three. But I also hope that you receive something about collaboration because many of these characters knew that in order to reach the goals that they wanted, be that vengeance, be that just being petty, be that just surviving. They knew that they had to have a core group, a core unit around them to do that. Until next time.